Fight!
All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fighting with Numbers. This is episode 34. Ain't that wild? I'm almost at the year mark. We're getting there. We're almost at a year worth of Fighting with Numbers. But here we are. We are back for UFC London. But last week, model got right. The model went 5-2, which is more like it. That's how I like my models. That brings our overall prediction record on the model on the year to 31-12. We are rolling, as we would say. The process is working. The numbers are, they keep finding the edge, and that's what we like. That's what I want to keep doing. We hit on all the spots we wanted to hit last week. The bets that happened, they went forward. I went 3-0 in my bets. I don't know if you guys jumped in. I actually ended up staying away from the main event, but I did say Vallejos by knockout would be the safe way to play it, and that ended up cashing really quickly if you jumped on that at all. But this week, the UFC heads across the pond to UFC London town, and the main event's probably one of the more unique matches we'll get this year. We have an undefeated versus an undefeated, and that's always exciting. Someone has got to go unless there's a draw or no contest or a disqualification. But Movzar Evloev, 19-0, facing off Lerone Murphy, 17-0-1. So we'll get there. We'll get to that matchup. But first, this is a very thin card. When we go, especially across the pond, but when we go international, the UFC definitely brings in the local flavor per se. There's a lot of guys, up-and-comers, not a lot of data on this fight card, a lot of unknowns. So it's a very careful card. There's actually only 4 fights that even kind of qualified for the model. I'll get into that later, but there's only 4 fights that actually were able to be ran through the model. Thus, I'm only breaking down 3 fights today. I'm giving you the most information I can actually give you for this fight card with my model. So we'll get there. Let's hit 3 fights. Let's get into it. But as always, I am Rob Moreno, a.k.a. Bobby Knuckles, a.k.a. The Robbio. Find me across all social medias at that handle, The Robbio. Links will be in the description, and the full model breakdowns and write-ups will be live at fightnumbers.substack.com in Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, or whenever you're listening. This could be live already. I also have a surprise announcement at the end. You know what? Yeah, we'll hit it at the end. We'll hit it at the outro. That means you got to tune in, or you can fast forward. Do whatever you want. But let's go. Fight time. Okay, UFC London starts pretty early Saturday morning, so we get some morning violence. I love that. I love waking up and just having the fights going. Let's sweat my bets out quick. Let's get it over with, see how we do. But hopefully it's a happy day for all of us. Goes down Saturday, Paramount Plus. Welcome to the Paramount Plus era, kids. So let's hit Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Let's start here. Roman Dolidze is coming off a rough one. Submission loss to Anthony Hernandez. Fluffy was on his tear at the time. That was back in August. Before that, he had rattled off 3 straight wins. So not too bad for him. So he's not a fighter in a free fall yet, but that loss does sting. He now sits at 3-3 since 2023. So the ship has to get right for him. It's trending sideways at best. Across from him is Christian Leroy Duncan, CLD. And the guy is trending in the opposite direction. He's riding a 3-fight win streak, the last 2 coming by TKO, by the way. Most recently, he stopped Marco Tulio in November. And since 2023, he's 6-2. The momentum is clearly on his side of the octagon. There's also a 7-year age gap here. Roman is 37, Duncan just 30. Duncan comes in with a 3-inch reach advantage at 79 inches. On paper, this is a fight where the younger, longer fighter has a lot of tools to work with here. Duncan's also going to be the local favorite, we will say that. And the XR percentage gap, that confirms also what I was explaining prior. Duncan is at 65%, Roman at 55%. Duncan wins rounds more consistently, and he does it convincingly. Roman Dolidze, not quite. It's 50-50, really. Now, the striking numbers are where Duncan really stands out, though. He lands 4.60 significant strikes per minute with a 1.63 differential. He's absorbing less than 3 significant shots per minute. That's always such a good marker. That is clean, efficient striking. He's operating at a very high level as a striker is all I'm trying to say. He's also scored 3 knockdowns in the UFC, and with 5 knockout victories on his record, he's got finishing power. Dolidze lands 3.41 significant strikes per minute, but carries a negative 0.31 differential. He's getting outworked in exchanges is what we're saying there. He spends 66% of his time at distance, so this is primarily a stand-up approach for him. And if he's going to be eating shots along the way, that's not a good recipe here in the judge's eyes, especially when it comes to just winning rounds on the road. Also, the grappling picture is a little interesting though. Roman actually holds a 70% control rate in clinch and ground time with 11 takedowns at 39% accuracy. It's not elite, but it's a path for a guy if he's trying to avoid the clean striking exchange with Duncan. Duncan's only scored 2 takedowns in his UFC career, 20% accuracy. He's not looking to go to the ground. Those happened accidentally, probably. He's spending 52% of his time at distance, so he does mix range with pressure. It's just not going to be a takedown in that mix-up. Duncan does hold a 69% takedown defense, so even if Roman Dolidze tries to drag this fight down, he's going to face resistance. The model, it's all in on the favorite, Christian Leroy Duncan, 74.73% win probability, full confidence score. The issue, his odds have ballooned. He is sitting at minus 450 right now, and that money line is just take it off the table. I mean, it's implying an 81% win probability for him. My model doesn't even see it that high, and it likes Christian Leroy Duncan a lot in this matchup. You just can't responsibly lay that type of number. You guys know. Come on. For a card this thin, for me too, this isn't even a parlay piece because there's really not a lot for me to parlay with here. So here's where the value hunting comes in. Duncan by decision is sitting at plus 150 right now. And honestly, that feels like the right path, even though the odds will kind of imply a knockout is much more likely because knockout odds are right now at plus 130 for Christian Leroy Duncan to get it over Roman Dolidze. But Roman Dolidze has never been knocked out in his UFC career, and he's actually only been knocked down once. He is durable. He will be there at the end. So if Duncan wins, and the model says he probably does, the odds say he probably does, it likely goes to the cards, in my opinion. I'm staying away from a moneyline play here. This is a thin card. No moneyline play. Duncan by decision at plus 150 is definitely worth a look. If not, over 2.5 is also sitting at minus 125, also very in play. Okay, this one is a fascinating puzzle from a modeling standpoint, and I want to be upfront with you on that as well. Michael Venom Page, MVP, entered the UFC in 2024 and has gone 3-1 in that time, riding a 2-fight win streak. His most recent fight was a decision win over Jared Cannonier, who is tough as nails. That was back in August. MVP has bounced between welterweight and middleweight while joining the UFC, especially most recently in 2025, all middleweight. And now he's coming back home to welterweight, where he's probably most comfortable. He is 38 years old, so the clock is ticking. MVP is one of those guys who's been defying expectations stylistically for years. So we'll see where his career is going at this point. Across from him is Sam Patterson, 29 years old, just 4-1 in the UFC and riding a 4-fight win streak. Here's the wild part. All 4 of those wins for Sam ended in the very first round. The guy has only seen 2 decisions in his entire MMA career. He is a finisher or a finished opponent. Now, with that said, let's get into some numbers, and I'm going to give you the caveat up front. Sam Patterson has brought in, even though he has 5 UFC fights, he has brought in less, just under, but less than 15 minutes of actual UFC cage time into this model. That's a data limitation, and normally I would probably disqualify that, but normally I don't see that across 5 fights. Normally I see that across 3, maybe 4 fights. So with this fight card being lean in London, I'm not going to have a lot on the board. I'm going to run this through the model. I'm going to count it. It's going officially in the records. We're just flagging the confidence level accordingly, depending on what our outcome is here on the bet. So with that said, here's what we're working with. MVP, for all the hype around his striking, is landing just 2.23 significant strikes per minute. That's one of the lowest outpoints we've seen come through this model, if I'm being honest. But his positive 0.47 differential tells you why. He's nearly impossible to hit. He absorbs just 1.77 significant strikes per minute. That's crazy. He's not a volume striker, but he doesn't eat any shots either. He's a chess player who makes you miss and makes you pay for missing. Now, the problem is that style hasn't quite produced finishes in the UFC. It's created some flashy moments, but not actual impressive victories, I would say. His last knockout was back in Bellator in 2023, RIP Bellator. And his XR percentage, it sits at just 41%. For a guy who's 3-1 in the UFC, 41% XR percentage is very bad. It means he's losing rounds more often than he's winning them at this elite UFC level. It's always been in my head. It's always been a question to me when a guy has found superb success outside of the UFC prior to landing in the UFC and then joins the UFC, things change. Their numbers just come crashing for some reason. Their expectation level is just so high. Now, Sam Patterson, young cat, not a lot of expectation if I'm being honest. He brings a little bit more volume, 4.79 significant strikes per minute, but just a 0.08 differential, nearly flat there. So he's going to take some shots in these exchanges. He holds a 79% control rate in clinch and ground time, which is very impressive actually for how quick his fights have gone. It tells me he wants to get this fight a little messy though. Only 2 takedowns to his name as well. The clinch work is what could be the factor, not an actual ground game. Welcome to the Paramount era where most fighters have absolutely zero ground game. We don't want you booing out there in the stands. His XR percentage, Sam Patterson's, is 80%. Though, again, that comes with a big asterisk. And if you notice, if you're watching on YouTube, there's an asterisk next to his name for a reason. He just hasn't faced the level of competition MVP has seen in the UFC. Context matters. This is wrapped around in context for this match. The model, it runs the numbers, and I can only give you what it gives me. It falls in Sam Patterson's favor. Sam Patterson, it gives him a 64.38% win probability. Now, I will warn you, it's not a high confident score. But here's why it's interesting as a betting spot. He's priced at plus 160, implying roughly only 38% chance. Our model has him closer to 64%. That's a significant gap, even accounting for the data limitations. So what I suggest is this isn't a full unit type of play because I have reservations over the context of his numbers and who he's faced and who he's accomplished what he has. He's done great. MVP is getting older. So at plus 160, I'm thinking he has at least a puncher's chance. Like I said, I'm not unloading a clip on him. It's not a full unit play if that's how you measure your bets. The limited data keeps this in a small shot category, right? Puncher's chance. But if you're looking for a place where the book might be overvaluing MVP's reputation over his actual recent output, this could be the spot. Small shot on Sam Patterson at plus 160 is absolutely something I'll be doing this weekend. And it's main event time. And this one deserves a moment. Movzar Evloev, 19-0. Lerone Murphy, 17-0-1. Undefeated versus undefeated. This fight's actually better than I think most people are realizing. When these two step into the cage in London, they will set a UFC record for the most combined wins without a loss in a single matchup. That is 36-0-1. That's never happened before. 2 undefeated fighters of this caliber sharing an octagon is pretty special. They both debuted in 2019. Both have 9 UFC victories. Murphy just has one more fight, but it was a draw. And one of them is going to walk out of London with a legitimate claim to fight Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight title. At least I think so, and at least I hope so. So let's figure out who that could be. Lerone Murphy is the striker here. He is spending 61% of his time at distance, and the numbers show why. He's exceptional out there. 4.48 significant strikes per minute with a 1.97 differential. That is a high differential. He is a clean striker. Efficient, posed. He has scored 3 knockdowns in the UFC and has mixed in 3 TKO victories. The crowd in London is going to be electric for him. You are going to see the replay of his spinning elbow knockout many times throughout the day. He has been dropped twice in his career, but Evloev is not a power puncher. He has zero knockdown scored. So while Murphy has some chin questions, they probably won't be answered Saturday night, afternoon. Depends where you are in the world. Now, Movzar Evloev, he's a different type of animal. He is a decision machine. All 9 of his UFC victories have gone to the judges. He mixes up his approach. He spends 52% of his time at distance, landing 3.99 significant strikes per minute with a 1.33 differential. He avoids damage well. He's never been knocked down himself, but where Evloev operates on a different level, you guessed it, it's the grab. 81% control rate in clinch and ground time. He has scored 42 takedowns in the UFC. And while his accuracy sits at 48%, he's averaging 6.24 takedown attempts per 5 minutes. That is relentless pressure. He doesn't need to be efficient. He just needs to keep on coming. And here's the number that sticks out for Murphy: 51% takedown defense. This is not a great number for a fighter who's about to face one of the more persistent takedown artists at featherweight. Murphy has not seen this kind of grappling pressure in the UFC. The question isn't whether Evloev gets him down. It's how many times and how much does it cost Murphy in the rounds. The model runs it. It's going to take these numbers. Don't question it. It lands on Movzar Evloev. But I want you to be careful here. It's not a clear decision here. Movzar Evloev, the model gives him only a 62.96% win probability. That's not a confident hammer here. That's the model telling you it likes Evloev, and he's the rightful favorite, but not by a massive margin. The books have him at minus 235. I've seen him at slightly higher or lower, but it's implying around a 70% win probability. There's a gap there, and not in our favor either. The model thinks the odds are off. The juice is too high for the confidence level we're working with. The juice is not worth the squeeze. As a clean moneyline bet, I'm probably staying away. Honestly, this is the type of play I completely stay away from on a traditional basis. This is the model telling me there's no play here. It knows what side to be on. It just doesn't like the price. But if come Saturday afternoon, I'm feeling like placing a bet and I'm playing anything in this fight, Evloev by decision is at minus 130, at least what I'm finding across the pond, as we say, because Vegas doesn't have any methods of victory up yet. Vegas. It just makes the most sense. He's only gone to decisions. One of the hardest things to do is to look for flaws in an undefeated fighter. Try looking for flaws in two undefeated fighters going against each other is dang near impossible. So it's hard to picture Murphy being knocked out, being submitted, or anything like that, especially when Evloev has no finishes in the UFC. So if Evloev is controlling the pace, controlling the ground, outworking Murphy, avoiding damage, the judges are just going to see it. Now, Murphy is the hometown boy here. Evloev is going to have to do his job properly, but the model sees it his way. Evloev by decision at minus 130 is the play if you're in it, but approach this one with caution. The model is not screaming for me to take this. Well, that's UFC London town. Small card this week for us. Honestly, once again, one of the smaller ones. Not every fight night hands you a full slate of edges, really, and that's okay, because not only is it a small slate, it's limited data, really, across the board. We're not going to force action just because there's a card in. We're sitting very comfortably at where the model's at. We're sitting at 31-12 on the year. There's only 4 plays this year. But the difference is I'm okay if the model goes 0-4 in predictions. I just don't want to go 0-4 betting the card, right? So I got to pick my spots carefully. It's worth protecting. Not every week is a full slate. That's fine. Discipline is what gets you to the end of the year in the green. All right, that's a hard lesson to learn. And one more thing before I go. I mentioned a teeny tiny surprise. The Fighting with Numbers model app, yes, I said app, is in the works. It will be a web app. It won't be something you download in the App Store. It'll be something you check out in your browser and you can save it to your homepage. But I'm still testing the overall look and functionality. It's just another way for people to look at what I'm looking at in my model. It's not going to show any data. It's not going to show any back end stuff. You won't see what my model does on the front end and the math or anything like that, but you will see what each fight card has selected for it as far as if a fight is worth a bet or not. You'll essentially get the information quick on the go. I'll probably put it out every single week after I do the podcast. That way information comes in slates. But yeah, the app, I'm working on it right now. I'm still testing look, functionality, making sure things run the way it should before I really pass it out along the way. But if you're curious and you want to take an early look, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at @therobio. Slide in my DMs. We can talk. I'll send you the link and you can check it out for me and be a guinea pig for me. As always, just remember, follow me on all social medias at @therobio, and that's how you'll find out about the app when it actually drops. I'm not really sure where it's going. I just want to provide more ways to see my information and see what my model's doing week to week. And don't forget, full written breakdowns and model data will live at fightnumbers.substack.com. Most likely will be live by the time you hear this on a Wednesday afternoon. And catch me on First Strike this week from VSiN, the sports betting network. There'll be more angles and more lines to choose from there. Get to talk to Dave Ross. He always spurns my brain on other plays to make. But I appreciate you all for tuning in every single week. You know, I see the listener count going up and up. So if you want to check me out, I'm also on YouTube at The Robbio. Feel free to check the channel out there. Click subscribe if you want to see my face and see some of the numbers on the screen. Yeah, I just appreciate all of you for continuing to just listen to me ramble on about fights and ramble on about data. It's a fun thing I do, and I hope you guys are having fun with me. Hope you guys are hitting some bets as well. So for the fans in London this weekend, I bet it's going to be a great atmosphere there. Great day of fights, great night of fights, depending where you are in the world. So we will talk next time. That is Fighting with Numbers UFC London betting preview. Bye, Bobby.
Fight!